When a ghost. No phone call, no text.
It's not like I didn't want to apologize.
You don't have to explain anything. It was just a flame. So how have you been? God, I hate that thumbs up stunt guy stuff.
This week on Talking About the Movies, does the ultimate love letter to stunts in general make for a movie that should start off the summer 2024 movie season on the right note? I don't know, but the movie's pretty awesome. Let's talk about Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in The Fall Guy. Plus,
Kellogg's is entering the race to reinvent breakfast with the help of Steve Schwinn, Chef Boyardee, and Jack LaLanne.
They're stacking the deck with ringers.
You know Isaiah Lamb from Quaker?
You Kellogg's people.
Jerry Seinfeld ensembles an all-star cast to tell the ridiculously true story about the creation of Pop-Tarts with Unfrosted the Pop-Tart Story. It's a double feature this week on Talking About the Movies. And welcome to Talking About the Movies, where of course on the show we talk about the biggest new releases of the weekend, and this is where the biggest newest release of the weekend is usually the film that launches the summer movie season as a whole. But this year we're in radically different territory than we usually are. For the last almost 20 years now, we've always had a Marvel movie open up the summer movie season, whether it's a film that was released by Disney, or was still released by Fox or Sony, with the X-Men movies or the Spider-Man films, or just anything in general, but not this year. Originally it was going to be Deadpool and Wolverine, but they delayed that because of the strikes that happened last year, so this year we're in radically different territory in terms of what's opening up the summer movie season, and some might say this film right here is probably not the best way to start the movie season off, but does that mean it's a bad movie in general? I certainly don't think so. Let's go ahead and talk about The Fall Guy. So The Fall Guy is based off the 1980s TV series of the same name, which starred Lee Majors and Heather Thomas, about stunt performers. And you really can't separate the Fall Guy TV series without adding in the ABC promos back in the day by Ernie Anderson. I mean, that guy just had such a distinctive voice that could sell you any show, regardless of how bad it is, and make you at least want to watch it the first time around. I mean, it's the perfect definition of a successful pitchman. Sell you something that's probably not good. Maybe it is good, but you just got to watch and see for yourself. And you were convinced to watch those shows because of what that guy was telling you. And honestly, when I wanted to start the intro for this, I wanted to do something similar to that, but to the promos that he used to do back in the day. But what got something a little bit like this, you know, he was more than Knuff, and she left you silent, you know, in reference to like Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt and Barbie in A Quiet Place. But in the film you have a stuntman played by Ryan Gosling, who's on his ex-girlfriend's directorial action film, The Ex-Girlfriend played by Blunt, only to find himself in a conspiracy surrounding the film's leading actor, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And, really, that's pretty much all you need to know about the film in general here. I mean, this movie is a legitimate love letter to stuntmen. I mean, this is a film that knows that it cannot dick around. It's a film that's been promoting itself as the definitive stuntman movie, a stunt performer film in general. And with all the money that they spend on this movie, you better goddamn give us the stunts we want to see. And they do that, and it leads to one of the many aspects of this movie being friggin' awesome. I mean, this is a really damn good movie. Probably the most fun I've had with an action film in quite some time. This is a really solid film, and you know, it helps with the direction of David Leitch, who gave us stuff like Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, mostly known for his work on the John Wick movies, Bullet Train, which was not the greatest film in general. In terms of his movies, it was definitely one of his weaker films in general, but this is a nice return to form for him. The thing that really surprised me about this whole thing was that it was written by Drew Pearce, whose last couple films have not been that great. Iron Man 3 was definitely a film that really was not that spectacular in general, but I mean, I'll take it back. He did write a couple of things that were actually kind of good. Rogue Nation, the Mission Impossible film, and Hobbs and Shaw. It was a fun movie, a fun, silly film that knew that it didn't need to take itself too seriously here. And I like this movie for a number of different reasons. One, the action. The stunt work in here, it's all top-notch. I mean, this shows you that how much this film admires stunt work. It shows that, like, I love the fact that this movie does not have a whole lot. It's like all the effects in here look practical, and it definitely looks like that it is a legitimate love letter to the stuntman in general. And And I like that. I like the fact that you can barely see where they use CG. Because I know they use CG in here. I mean, they have to in some cases. But I do like the fact that the film does a good job of hiding most of the CG, except when it needs to show it to you out in the open. But, like, when it comes to the effect, the stunt work here, it all feels like it's practical. Some of it may be CG, and they did a pretty good job of hiding it then, in that case. But that's one of the great things about the film. The second thing I like about the film, it's got some good laughs to it. It's a legitimately fun comedy, and it helps that you have a great cast with a lot of enthusiasm and charm to them, that they can make this movie work as well as it does here. 3, I like the idea that it's showing you the basic making of a Hollywood movie, even though, like, most times than not, some of the stuff might not happen on set, but then again, most of the time, maybe it does. I mean, we don't know for certain, but one of the best aspects about the movie is the cast, especially Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, who play the couple of the film, and you just get so sucked into them getting back together again. I mean, this movie does a great job of showing how much charm and charisma these two have together. This is why movies like this, action romantic comedies, need to succeed. I mean, they've been trying to do this for so many years, trying to create the next Romancing the Stone, because that movie worked as well as it did because Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner have a lot of great charisma together, as they would show in other films in that decade. But they always try to do that, and they never really get the charisma down, or the elements of both the action, the comedy, and even the romance in there. So 3 aspects in general, but we've been getting some really good films as of late of doing that. The Lost City is a perfect example from a couple years ago, and this film in particular, it works because Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt just work off each other so well. You believe that they were once really into each other, and then they separated and went their separate ways, and slowly but surely you do want to see them get back together, and it just works in the film's favor. I love that scene where, Colt goes on the set of the film. Nobody really he was told that the director, that Emily Blunt's character wanted him specifically by the producer, played by Hannah Waddingham, which turned out not to be true in general. But there's a great scene where they're shooting this big action sequence in this movie, and they talk about their relationship in a way that's in public and doesn't feel forced in any way, shape, or form. Like, you get so invested in it, and you see both sides back and forth, is really taking a look at what they've done, like, especially Ryan Gosling's character, and just realizing that, yeah, like, it's a really good scene with them using the bullhorns, talking about, their feelings while they're also talking about the movie itself. I love the dialogue in this movie. That's really surprising. Like, they're trying to reestablish a relationship, but they're also trying to create the biggest flaw of this film that they're working on is that they don't know how to shoot the third act of the film, and so they use these Hollywood tropes. Like, Emily Blunt's character will say something like, "What do you think of a split screen?" And Ryan Gosling will be on the phone with somebody, just like, will hit with her and be like, "That could work," and then the film just goes to a split screen, and you hear them talking to each other about the movie, but also kind of mixing in their overall relationship as well. I mean, their relationship in general does play a huge part in the whole film, obviously, and I like the way that the writing in this movie plays it out. Like, it doesn't tell you straight out in the open what they're feeling through here. It's not done in a typical romantic. In a typical relationship in a film like this, and I like that. I like that there's no big, huge third act breakup and everything. Like, I love how it's mercifully short. It's like everyone's understandable of the situation once they figure out what's going on here, and I like that. I hate it when movies, like, they have to drag it out because we have to keep the runtime going. No, because this builds character. No, it's a waste of time. You're wasting everybody's time by keeping us in here when we don't want to see this particular part of the movie, and we just want to get to the good stuff again. And like I said, I like the fact that the film doesn't do that, and that's really what made me really realize how much I really love this movie, because it's the anti-romantic comedy. It doesn't go through the same tropes that we've seen done over and over again. But it doesn't bore you with the stuff that it does add into there. It actually enhances the experience for you in the long run. And I think everybody in the cast does a very good job in their roles here. I'm talking a lot about Gosling and Blunt. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson playing, who I thought was at first a Tom Cruise parody, but when you really watch it, he's pretty much Logan Paul. I mean, he literally looks like Logan Paul with that beard and with a beard set up, and the hair that's all spiked out like that. Like, I mean, come on, that's Logan Paul to a T. And I thought Hannah Waddingham was a pretty good antagonist. I mean, she does eventually become the antagonist of the movie, and you can kind of figure it out right from the get-go. But I like most of the other cast in the film. Teresa Palmer, she's in there for a little bit, but she does add a little bit to the overall ebb and flow whenever she needs to. But Stephanie Hsu from Everything Everywhere All at Once was very good. And Winston Duke, you know, you could criticize him for the fact that he was mostly talking about his movie lines and all that, but that's part of his character, man. He's a stunt coordinator, and I think he has a lot of good charisma with Gosling. I mean, there is a lot to admire about this film. I mean, it's a simple concept. Adapt the TV show for a modern generation. Don't get too advanced and too crazy where it doesn't need to. Throw in your homages, too. I like the little homages that they have here. I mean, it's not just to the Fall Guy in here, but it's mostly the 80s television. I mean, you hear the $6 Million Man's thing that he does. You know, the na-na-na-na-na. I can't do the sound effect in particular. You don't want to talk about the synthesized sound effect that shows up a couple times in the movie. I mean, Ryan Gosling talks about how he was an extra on Miami Vice, and he wears the Miami Vice sound team jersey. And there's a point where they actually have the Miami Vice theme song in there. Now, I thought the music choices were also very good, too. Like, they keep playing the song, I Was Made for Loving You, Baby. And keep in mind, I have never seen the original Fall Guy TV series. I honestly thought that was the theme song, and that's why they kept playing it so many times. But, no, it's not only the song itself, but they also play it in different styles, too. And it does include the theme song of the show, which was actually sung by Lee Majors in the TV series, but it's Blake Shelton doing it in the movie. And it's not bad. I mean, it's something where I thought that for a song I didn't know was actually the song for the TV show. I thought he did a pretty good job of handling that. But is there anything else really I need to say about this movie? I mean, I think the film was a ton of fun, man. Like, the more I think about it, the more I thought about how much I really appreciated it for what it was doing. I'm really glad I got to see it when I did, because I really have gotten the chance to realize that this movie actually is a lot more fun than I was giving it credit for. This is a really solid film, a fun action comedy with a great romantic edge to it. You do really want to see Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling get together. They have just such good charisma together. The action is top notch. The comedy is very good. The cast is also very good. It's a really good, entertaining film. Now, would I use this to open the summer movie season? Probably not. I would probably go for something more in line with, if you can't get a Marvel movie, move something like Planet of the Apes up. I mean, Planet of the Apes probably would have done very well this particular weekend, but because of that, there's more high expectations for this to do well at the box office, and unfortunately, this film probably won't do that. It's a shame, because the movie is really damn good. I mean, I think people should definitely give it an opportunity and see that it actually is well worth it just to see it for what it is, a fun, solid action comedy with a lot of romantic aspects to it. I really enjoyed the film a lot. I give it a good thumbs up. It's a really good time. Even if you've never seen the original Fall Guy TV series, you should find a lot to admire about this particular film and then some. So, yeah, that's the positive review for this week. Let's go ahead and get into the negative review this week. And unfortunately, it features somebody who I admire the most as a comedian, as a comedic actor in general. Jerry Seinfeld's latest film, his directorial debut. Let's talk about Unfrosted. You know, this is one of those rare instances where I get so excited for a movie that I'm really looking forward to, and it just, what happens afterwards is just, wow. Now, I like Jerry Seinfeld. I like Seinfeld, the TV series. I think it's still one of the best TV shows of all time. I think he's a very funny comedian. But, and I thought that he was smart enough to, you know, unlike everybody else on Seinfeld, when they all went off and did their own thing shortly after the show ended, I like that Jerry took his time and waited for the moment to come back and actually do something big, which was the first thing that he did was B-Movie, which was a very weird movie in its own right, but it works because of how weird it is. It works because of what DreamWorks is able to do with a film like that. And, you know, I like that idea that he takes his time with any project that he does. And like everybody else on Seinfeld, where they all did their own things shortly afterwards. But But when a movie like this comes along, that sounds like a really fun idea. I mean, you have a movie that's based off the true story of the creation of Pop-Tarts. And in this tale of ambition, betrayal, sugar, and menacing milkmen, cereal company Kellogg's attempts to beat their rival Post to the market with a revolutionary breakfast pastry in 1963 Battle Creek, Michigan. The trailer for this looked pretty funny. It looked really silly. It looked completely over-the-top ridiculous. I mean, I thought that this film was going to be something on the lines of the Weird Al Yankovic biopic we got last year. I mean, a parody in a way that actually works in the film, that actually works because there's good talent there, a good script to work off of. I mean, this is written by people who made one of the greatest TV shows of all time. How could this possibly go wrong? And then you watch the movie and you realize, oh, all those creative things that this movie could have had going for him were instantly replaced, and Jerry Seinfeld just said, let's just make a long Saturday Night Live episode with all these different big names as these figures in the history of the world. Like, you know, you got Seinfeld, you got Melissa McCarthy, Jim Gaffigan, Max Greenfield, Hugh Grant, Amy Schumer, Peter Dinklage, Christian Slater, Bill Burr, Dan Levy, James Marsden, Jack McBrayer, Thomas Lennon, Bobby Moynihan, Adrian Martinez, Sarah Cooper, Mikey Day, Kyle Mooney, Drew Tarver, Tony Hale, Maria Bakalova, Dean Norris, Kyle Dunnigan, Sebastian Maniscalco, Beck Bennett, Cedric the Entertainer, Fred Armisen, Andy Daly, Sarah Burns, Rachel Harris, Roddy Chang, Cedric Yarborough, Patrick Warburton, Daryl Hammond, all these big names playing these historical figures. You got Toucan Sam, and Little Debbie, General Mills, Ed McMahon, Walter Cronkite, Johnny Carson, Thor Ravenscroft, John F. Kennedy, Andy Warhol, Jack LaLanne, Jeff Boyardee, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. All these things that could be very funny, could be very clever, and yet nothing happens in this movie that's funny, and in fact is downright stupid. This is one of the worst movies I've seen this year, and I'm amazed at how bad this movie was. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the talent involved in this film made a film that was so unbearable to watch. Like, as soon as I was done watching the movie, I felt like that dude on the Newlywed Game when he was asked a question about what's something about your wife that you didn't want her to know about or something like that. And the thing that she puts up is that like his last girlfriend was a hooker, and he's just like, oh shit, like he swears and like everybody's laughing at it, and Bob Eubanks is just like, never had an answer like that before. That's how I felt like watching that movie. Like that guy who just who just realized that my wife just told the world that my last girlfriend was a hooker, and me going like, oh, like I'm embarrassed for this movie. I'm embarrassed for the people involved in this movie. It's just like, it'd be something if the movie had something of value to it, but there's just nothing of value in this movie whatsoever. It's lifeless. Nothing about this movie makes any sense. Nothing about what they're doing here makes any sense. Everybody just shows up in this film because, hey, we've got these historical figures from this time period. Let's bring them all in there. And, you know, the movie lost me right from the get-go because in the opening scene of the movie, you have a cameo from two guys from a specific television show. And I don't want to necessarily say what that show was, but just to give you kind of an idea of who these two people are in particular, I'm just going to play a little bit of this right here. So, you have two actors most notable for that particular show that I just showed you there. And they're just there. I mean, because their show was set around this time period. And, you know, I mean, it'd be something if the cameo actually meant something. It wasn't just a cameo to tell people, hey, this show exists. We're going to have these guys in here because why not? And, like, that, I mean, to best sum up my thoughts after seeing that right there, let's play another clip from that show that I think perfectly sums that up.
Whoa.
I shouldn't even, but why am I even bothering not to spoil it for you? Because it's Netflix, and their brilliant marketing strategy has already spoiled that clip on their social media. This was actually from their Twitter page. It literally tells you it's John Hamm and John Slattery from Mad Men from the opening. They didn't even want to hide the surprise from it. They told people who saw the movie early, don't reveal the surprise cameo in here, but because we want to spoil it for you. Why watch the movie when you can watch it right here and automatically see that this film has no value whatsoever? That first opening right there sets the tone for the uneven mess of a film you're about to watch. And it's bad. It's really, really bad. The jokes that you think would be funny from the trailers are not funny. The jokes that is the humor that you would think would be in here from the trailer, completely not there. I mean, it's funny because I was at the mall yesterday and I saw a Clue Seinfeld board game, and I put a thing on social media basically saying that, funny. The one thing Jerry Seinfeld didn't have when he was making this movie, because I don't think he knew what the hell he was doing when he made this film. It's just like, hey, let's get all my favorite friends together and let's just have fun. Let's just have them dress up as costume characters. I mean, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies that also have these big actors in costume roles as historical figures at least has a purpose to it. At least has a purpose of why they're doing that. This does not. This is a film that is so lazy and so poorly executed, and I could not believe that this was from the same team that made Seinfeld. It's made one of the greatest TV shows of all time. And, just to add a little bit more fuel to the fire for Jerry Seinfeld this week, because, I don't know, maybe he felt like this was a thing that needed to add more publicity to it. He did a lot of TV interviews, and basically, one of the interviews he did, he basically was asked why TV isn't funny anymore, and basically said, political correctness in the extreme left. And it's just like, you're really going to go down that rabbit hole, dude? You really want to be in the same category as people like Tim Allen and Roseanne, where what are you doing? We had more respect for you, dude, before you did this. Before you went on this weird, crazy thing that you've been doing recently, and it's not helping selling your film, man. And on top of that, there was another thing he said that, oh, well, I don't want our movie to be the opposite of Barbie. What, you mean funny and actually uses it as a purpose to it? Actually had a lot of entertaining factors to it, unlike your piece of garbage film that you have right here? It kills me to say this because I love Jerry Seinfeld's work. I love what he does. I like the ability, I like the fact that he takes his time with his projects, but you know what? Everybody else on that show was more likable than him right now. I mean, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she's easily the most successful out of that entire group because she's had 2 successful shows since Seinfeld ended. She's won numerous Emmys for work on those shows, and now she's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, and what's Jerry Seinfeld doing? Making movies that will even make Adam Sandler movies look better by comparison. And those are movies where he has all of his buddies in there doing nothing of noteworthiness. But you know what? He's at least admitting that most of those movies are mostly tax write-offs so we can go on vacations. But vacation write-offs, basically, not tax write-offs. But you get what I'm talking about here. But this is the first film he's ever directed. This is from a guy that barely does it, that has done much of noteworthiness except for B-movie and Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. There's a lot of hype built around this movie because it's the first scripted things he's done since B-movie. And this is what you give us? This is what you decide this is what you think is entertainment to your audience, the people that have gotten behind you all these years, and even the people that have kind of criticized you would look at even they would look at this and go like, you used to be something, man. And the humor just isn't funny whatsoever. I mean, the names of these people are so ridiculously stupid. The original characters they come up with. Jerry Seinfeld's name is Bob Cabana, which isn't bad, but then you get to Jim Gaffigan. It's just like Edsel Kellogg, because the Edsel was that car for the 1950s that was notoriously one of the biggest flops in the history of car making. Rick Ludwin is played by Max Greenfield, and Rick Ludwin was one of the guys who worked at NBC when Jerry Seinfeld's show was on the air. Harry Friendly, played by Peter Dinklage, is the leader of this milk syndicate. And, some of the names here get so ridiculous. The casting in this film in particular just feels forced. Nobody really has a reason to be playing these roles. Why do we have Dean Norris as Nikita Kucherov? What the hell does he add to the equation here? Why do we have one guy playing Walter Cronkite and Johnny Carson? I mean,
That's two different figures who clearly do not look the same. And, like, why is that? Like, I'll take that back. The one person I thought was actually legitimately funny in here that I thought, he's making this work, is Bill Burr as John F. Kennedy. Like, I saw that, it's just like, you know what? He's actually putting the most effort into this. And he was one of the few funny things about the trailer that I thought was really the standout moments of the trailer. But, like, in here, like, he really is the best thing about the film. He's the one person who gets what his assignment is. Play John F. Kennedy and use your style of comedy to make it work. And lo and behold, he does it. And he really is the one thing that I can honestly say coming out of this film that was definitely the strongest thing about the movie. But all these different marketing people coming in here. Like, there's a guy named Ralston Purina, you know, the person behind the Ralston Purina company. Somebody named General Mills. There's someone named Little Debbie. You know, there's Toucan Sam, played by Cedric Yarborough, which is really, really weird. And Chef Boyardee. Thor Ravenscroft is a Shakespearean actor cast as Tony the Tiger. You get it? Because he was Tony the Tiger in the Frosted Flakes commercials. Like, these are jokes that are so lazily put together. It's just like, it's literally the film equation of, you get it, you get it, can we hit you in the head more with these? Because that's the majority of the jokes in this movie. It's just jokes where it's just like, it's dad jokes. It's dad jokes the movie. That's what this should have been really called. Dad jokes the movie. Because these are the type of jokes your dad makes whenever he wants to think he's funny and all that. But he really is not. And it's just a terrible film. And I could not believe how lazy this movie was. How just uninspired this was. I just really do not get it. I don't get what Jerry Seinfeld saw in this, that he thought that this was something that needed to be made. This needed to be the film, another film that needed to be the one thing that keeps him coming out of, keeps it coming out of retirement every once in a while. But this is a terrible film, man. Like, this is right up there with Argyle and Madam Web. In fact, I was debating whether or not this is the worst film of the year, because it's between Argyle and it's also between this film. And the thing with Argyle, the difference is, like, here's the thing that's really conflicting me about which one I think is the worst. Because Argyle's a bad movie, but Argyle was at least trying to tell a story. Argyle was at least trying to sell something to you that wasn't just a bad SNL sketch. It wasted a ton of great actors, but at least they were trying, and there were things about it that did kind of work. But the overall film was such a massive, massive misfire. This barely has anything of noteworthiness to it, with the exception of Bill Burr. And it's just nothing but these actors dressing up in costume and acting like it's an episode of Saturday Night Live. I'd rather watch Saturday Night Live now than watch this movie. And Saturday Night Live is horrible right now. I'd rather watch that than watch this movie. So really, the more I think about it, this might actually be the worst movie of the year. But I'm not going to go ahead and confirm it as that right now. I'm going to wait till the year ends. But right now, it's a two-horse race for who's the worst film of the year right now. This film and Argyle for sure. But I mean, I think I pretty much said everything I needed to say about this movie. It's a terrible film. It wastes too many good, talented people. The jokes are not funny. The story is ridiculously stupid. Like, a film like this needed to be in the same vein as something like the Weird Al Yankovic film. The Weird Al Yankovic film that came out with Daniel Radcliffe works because it's a parody. It's a good parody of a musical biopic. I mean, it's like Walk Hard. Like, this movie needs to be like those movies. This did not need to go down this ridiculously stupid path that it went down, because man, this is awful. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And for somebody that grew up loving the show Seinfeld and liking Jerry Seinfeld's style of comedy, this let me down big time. This is a massive, massive letdown in so many different ways. It's easily one of the worst films of the year, and I don't think I need to surprise you with my rating, but thumbs down. Thumbs way, way, way down. And, yeah. So, yeah, not much more to say about that one. But, there you go. Those are my reviews for The Fall Guy and Unfrosted. Bottom line, the overall lesson you should be taking away from this: get your butts off your chair right now and go see The Fall Guy and avoid Unfrosted like the plague. So with that said, let's gonna wrap this episode of talking about the movies up. And next time, we will hopefully get a better movie, a film that has a lot of promise to it, of course, and that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That'll be the main focus of our show next week. So thank you for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of the other episodes I've done, as well as hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.